And finally, and I was going to make this part of my original ones, but I tried to keep the time. Part of what comes out of the one no, many yeses concept and what the Zapatistas did is a concept we loosely call network. And in a certain sense, it's the political formation. It is, most of us have said, no, we don't want the Social Democrat Party, we don't want the Leninist Party. We need another mode of organizing ourselves in struggle and in the future. And so we use this term, the network, and I'm putting it as a deep problematic because first of all, I'm not really sure what it means in many ways. And second of all, I think we have to figure out if it actually works for us, and I don't think we know that yet. I'm not against it, I don't have any better ideas, but I think it's a critical piece of our thinking as we go forward to say, how is the class organizing itself? What are the ways in which very diverse parts of our very rich and complex and constantly moving, recomposing class, in fact, can engage in struggles so that they're mutually supportive, so we get past capitalism and we lead to not some new form of horror and exploitation, but of a very different kind of life, commons for us all. And I don't think we know organizational forms that will work for us yet. And I think I don't think it's worked for the Zapatistas in Mexico, to tell you the truth. And so I think we have to think very deeply about what why that is the case, and move that ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to say something quick. And just response to Peter, in terms of history from below, what you're saying is how I've thought of that many times. The thing with me is that I also think that as you talk to people about these things, and they're very clearly in these relationships that are very much capitalist relationships, oftentimes the issue of hierarchy of power really comes into play. And so then you do get into this below and above. And I agree with you, it's problematic, but I think there is that. Lately, we've been representing a lot of people from Mayan people who've been picked up in these raids. And as you talk to them about their stories, it is the ground up. They don't see it as themselves as being outside of capital. They know they're very much attacked by capital. They have another society, they want to keep it. It is the bottom up. In fact, land is so central to their stuff. And it is the ground up. So on that level, it really plays out.
The guy in the red shirt.
Yeah, the guy in the red shirt. Responding to George's invitation to discuss where your collective might go. And listening to you all, I realize that some of the distance I feel from the theoretical focus that you all have, perhaps because of my own work over the last few years, is that it really seems to focus on class but not on patriarchy. You talk a lot about destroying capitalism, but very little about destroying patriarchy. And it seems to me that they are one and the same thing. And Sylvia's work certainly shows that, and other work that shows the foundations of capitalism in patriarchal structures. And it does seem to me that a broadening of a stretching of Marx, as you talked about, is not only necessary at this point in terms of the work that you do and articulate in terms of struggling against work. You bring it up as wages for housework, and I've always been sympathetic to that, but it's more than that. It's got to do with the theoretical foundations of what you talk about as revolution, as overthrowing capitalism. I'm finished.
Okay, so I just over here.
Nothing that can bring to any sort of conclusion with Peter's very remarkable notion about contesting the history from below. Brought back a memory of another revolutionary process that at least shaped me a lot. I don't know about others in this room, and that was the Sandinista revolution of the 1980s, where I was there 4 times and so on. And I still have on my wall a poster. Maybe you've seen it. It has a Superman figure, all in white, yellow, blue, and red, squirming, remarkably gripped in a gigantic brown hand. And the quotation from Corinthians, where Paul says, and God has chosen the things that are not to bring to nothing the things that are. So there's also an ontological, dimension, not just what category of domination, but perhaps the notion of being that at least had extreme resonance with at least one revolutionary process, and I think many more.
And at the back.
Yeah, this is just sort of a technical historical question. I'm very interested in the period from 1976 through 1979, sort of the prehistory of Midnight Notes. I know that a number of you were involved in the journal Zero Work, which published 2 issues and then apparently folded. And then the decision was made, I guess 3 years later, to restart what I view as a similar complementary project under a different name with some of the same people, some others. So I'm just wondering what happened in those intervening 3 years.
I wasn't part of that. I was not there.
I do. After you. No, I don't mind.
You can just speak in general terms, right? I realize it's perhaps it touches something.
Yeah, it's a touchy subject, man. For me, it's a touchy subject. We published Zero Work 1 and Zero Work 2 in Rochester, New York. It's where I worked. I was faced unemployment there, a divorce, and alcoholism. So and then there was a bitter split in Zero Work. And it's difficult for me to see it in cool political terms. And that's what I have to say about it now. And this meeting brings up some of those feelings. So.
Yeah, just in terms of chronology, Zero Work begins roughly around the spring of 1974. Its first publication was in December of 1975. I still remember driving through a snowstorm from Rochester with the cartons of Zero Work. Then there was in the preparation of the second issue, there was a political split in Zero Work in March of 1977. And then Zero Work 2 came out, one part of the group continued to. And then I was on the other side of the split, began to create connections and.
Can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, began to create the. Okay.
Coach, can I speak to you? Because I was on the other side of that split, right? In fact, Zero Work 3 was already there. We had all the documents, all the manuscripts, and there was, I don't recall this being such a tension, although I know it was for you, that you felt that wages for housework, if I can put what I think Sylvia is saying more simply, wages for housework should be the central issue in terms of struggle, and that what we were doing did not make that central. But there was another thing going on, that Harry Cleaver and I were in Austin, and there were a bunch of people up in New York, and if you really want to write this history, and I'm not sure that it's worth writing because it was what it was, but since you asked the question, there was also some tension about the people in New York and the sort of Italianization of some of the stuff that was going into Zero Work from the kind of the Lauro Zero kind of influence, and people in New York and people who were like us were in a very pedestrian way trying to put together another third issue. Since I had the bank accounts for Zero Work, I could tell you there was nothing in it. And even though Peter was, I think, willing again maybe to do some printing, I'm not sure, we had nowhere to go with it, and it could have come out as a third issue. In fact, it still exists in manuscript form, that third issue. But, so I don't feel that there was...
Posthumous notes.
I wish it had posthumous notes. I wish it had all the theoretical issues that Sylvia is alluding to that lay behind this, but I don't think it did.
Well, thanks a lot for your question. Cheers.